All right, in this week's Let's Build, we are going to build this beautiful looking local food restaurant ordering website. We're going to start from complete scratch and build it entirely in Thrive Theme Builder and Thrive Architect. We're going to build this navigation, this top section, this food category area, this multi-column, multi-content area, featured product section. We're going to build all of this. And this is kind of going to be a two-parter. We're first going to build this homepage and this template, and I'm going to make this available to Convology Pro members. But then in the next video, I'm going to take this same website and apply Orderable, which is a local ordering plugin for WooCommerce and WordPress. And I'm going to show you how to connect that and use all of that as well with the Thrive Suite system. Now, I do want to give some credit where credit is due here. This is based off of a starter template released by Cadence WP. Cadence is an awesome theme. In my previous video, I told you about how my wife uses Cadence for her e-commerce site. If you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. I'll do one of the little cards up in the corner that you can click on to watch that video. But we are going to take this Cadence starter theme and we are going to build it in Thrive to show you can build something just as beautiful really easily using Thrive Suite. Okay, so without further ado, let's take this exact design for this homepage and build it in Thrive. Now, like I mentioned, we are going to start first in Thrive Theme Builder. So I have a completely, well, mostly blank demo site, and I'm going to walk through some of the Thrive Theme Builder wizard setup to show you how I would do that if I were building this from scratch. So let's just get started with this. I'm going to open up my media library. You can see I already have everything planned out, I have everything imported. We're just going to choose our logo and click choose and continue. Now for our brand colors, we're going to want to probably use that same red that was used. I'm just going to use their colors. We'll apply that. We're going to use a lot of custom coloring, so that color doesn't matter. And it never really matters in general, by the way. You can create your own custom palette, and I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Now, what's really cool is actually the default menu might be the menu we're going to choose. As we see here, we have quite a few options. Centered menu looks good. Centered logo 03, that option looks pretty good as well, but I think we're just going to stick with the default here, keep it super simple for you. And we're going to make some edits and changes to that. But for now, we'll click choose and continue. And then for the footer, if we look at the footer that they used, it was just a multi-column, your typical little junk drawer footer. So we'll choose something like this one. That's super easy. And we'll change all the colors on that as well. And then we'll click choose and continue. Now for homepage, we're going to choose, this honestly is one of those things that I teach in my Thrive Theme Builder course. It doesn't really matter what you choose here. We're going to choose something different. But let's go ahead and display one of our existing pages. And I'm just going to choose this blank page that I already created. Great. Single blog post. I'm not going to build a blog in this, but if I did, I would probably just choose this template and we would mess around with it later. Blog post list. We're not going to do a blog, but if I did, I actually really like this one. It's part of the Omni theme. Choose, click, and continue. Now page. This one matters a little bit, and I think we might actually just stick with what we chose there and edit that template. Yeah, the default is going to work great for us as well on this one, so we'll click choose and continue. Now for the menu, we'll continue without choosing a menu. We're going to build our header ourselves, and we're not going to worry about anything with WooCommerce in this video. And so we're just going to, at that point, stop our wizard and jump right into templates. Okay, so here's kind of why I mentioned that choosing a homepage really didn't matter. So for our templates in Thrive Theme Builder, we have a template for everything, right? A homepage, a post, different kinds of posts, our pages, things like that. We're going to hover over active homepage and we're going to create a new homepage template. We're just going to give it a name. We'll call it my homepage. Click finish. And now we have a fresh template that we're going to use for that homepage because it's going to be different than our subpages. If I go over to our example and we go back up to the top to navigation, you can see the homepage looks like this, but if I go to a subpage such as services, you'll see that it's a separate template, right? They have this top section with some breadcrumbs. It's a totally different design. So we will use a separate template for our homepage, but they'll all be built inside of Thrive Theme Builder because they're all going to share navigation and share those default theme options. Now, before we jump in and start customizing templates, the first thing I really like to do is take a look at typography. So to edit typography, you just go to the typography section, you click on edit, and watch how easy this is. If you're not familiar with Thrive Theme Builder, we can basically edit every type of text on our website. So we'll edit all of our headers. I want those to be I don't know how to pronounce this, Bebas Nue, Bebas Nue, whatever that is. We'll go with that. I'll hit apply. I'll unbold it because I think that'll be plenty bold for us. And I'm going to change the color so it's not this off blue green. We're going to make it, let's go with something default for now. I think 0E, 0E, 0E is like a typical almost pure black header. So that always looks nice. And we'll maybe mess around with some of these sizings later. But for now, we'll go with the default and edit them at the page level. And then for our paragraph texts, I'm going to change all those. Instead of DM Sans, I'm going to use epilogue. And what's nice, if I can spell epilogue, is that these are all default Google fonts. Makes it super simple. And instead of 18, we'll drop that down to 15 just to keep it smaller because I know that's what we're going to use. Okay, that's looking pretty great. I think I'm going to leave that where it is right now. Maybe change this color as well to 0E. And like I mentioned, we're going to make all those edits on the page itself. So look how easy that was. I changed all the text in just pretty much 2 section clicks, and then you can click into each of these individually if you wanted to make further edits. I have more on that in my Thrive Theme Builder course, by the way, if you want to kind of get down into like the nitty gritty of how to customize link text and all those things. So for now, we're going to leave typography there, and if we need to make more edits in the future, we'll come back. By the way, if you just refresh this page, you can see that the edits have taken place. Okay, let's go ahead and edit our active homepage template. And here we go. So this is kind of a mess. We are going to radically change this. Our template is going to be super simple. We are not going to have a sidebar. We are not going to have a top section. Most definitely not going to have a page title on our homepage. We're not having a featured image. In fact, I'm just going to delete every darn thing that I can. So we're going to delete all the columns. Post content is fine. None of this is needed. None of that is needed. Bottom section, we are going to leave because if I jump back to our example here, you will see that there is a bottom section, and this is the same on every single page. So we are going to have a bottom section, and I'm going to go ahead and just build that right now. So I'll go into the bottom section, go to background style, add a color, and that color is going to be that default red that we chose. So I'll paste in that default red, make sure the opacity is all the way up to 100, and under my colors I'm going to click this plus symbol and I'm going to choose this as a global color, and now this is that theme red that we had. Now for our section options, I do want this to stretch full width. That looks great, and I'm going to add in some columns. Drag in our columns here, and I'm going to choose 2-column layout, and I'm going to add in a button into the bottom right because I believe if we jump back here, this was our prompt to download the app. So if we had a restaurant or a local ordering system, chances are an app would be a pretty big deal for our restaurant. So we'll go with a yellow color. I've got that handy right here. I'll just paste that in, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click the save color and make that a global color as well. And we'll just rename this to download our app. And it's all caps, and it's probably in that I don't know how to pronounce it. Bebas Nue. Yeah, that looks great. And then over here, we are going to put in this text, book your table now. So this is probably like a what's it called? Like a seat reservation app, so to speak. So we're just gonna put in some text, paste that in there, change it to white, and remove the bottom line spacing. And by the way, I go pretty quick in this, otherwise we'd be here for several hours. So if you are confused by anything that you're seeing me doing, feel free to leave a question in the comments of this video. I'll be happy to answer them for you. But for example, columns, right? If I want to center this text in the column, I just go to column in the breadcrumbs, not columns, but column, because we just want to do the left one. And I can click this center option. If I wanted to center for both, I would go to columns and I would choose to center. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just so it's easier to read. And I think we'll go with something like 30 and book your table now. That looks great to me. So for that, I'm going to click save. Now, one more bit of work I want to do. If you notice between my post content and my header, there's this little gap of white, and that's the content area. So if I click in, let me show you how to do this. If you're not familiar with this, you can click on something like your content area here because the page has no content. And in the breadcrumbs, you can see I'm in the post content. If I add something to the page, it's going to appear within here. Now you'll see if I click on this content area under layout and position, there is a margin of 15 pixels. And if I remove that margin of 15 pixels, my content rests snugly up against my navigation or my header. And that's what I want, because in this example here, you'll see that everything is tucked right up to the top of the screen. And that's what I want. I don't want any space. So under our post content, we're going to get rid of that margin. And by the way, in your templates, depending on which one you choose, you might find that there is padding or margin in the content area, the content wrapper, or the layout container. So you'll want to check layout and position of all of those. But that looks really good for us right now. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to save my work. I'm kind of a compulsive saver. One too many times the power goes out and I regret it. But I want to build the navigation because the navigation is site-wide and I can edit that right now. So I'm going to click Edit. And now we're going to adjust what the nav looks like on the site. And I'm going to make a couple adjustments first. The first one is to choose a background color. And we actually want it to be white. So I'm going to get rid of the color that was already in there by the template. That looks good. But our custom menu now, I'm going to put that inside of a content box. So I'm going to add a content box element, and I'm going to take our custom menu and put that inside of it. And then I'm going to go to the breadcrumbs to the content box, and I'm going to click the lock so I can just hit 0 and 0, and removing all the padding and margin from that content box. And the reason I put my nav inside of a content box, if you haven't guessed it, is because I want to add a background style, and I want to use that red that we had, and click apply. And the reason I'm doing that is because if we look here, you can see that their navigation or their header is within a content box as well, because they gave it a background section. Technically, their header extends all the way to the right and to the left of the screen, but this is transparent. So if we come back to our template, we're looking good. Now I want our content box. In fact, I want if I click done, we're not quite done, but I'll click done for now. Our homepage settings, I don't want it to be just 1080 pixels. I want this to be about, a common one that people use is 1140, just a little bit wider. And I want our whole page to be that. Now in our header section, I want our header to essentially be the same thing. So I want to make sure that inherit content size from layout is checked. If it's not, you can see when I unchecked it, it actually jumped to 1140 because that is the default. I'm going to leave that toggled. For the stretch background to full width, you can leave that on if you like. That's totally fine for what we're building here. Now I am going to go back into the nav and I'm going to click edit because our content box isn't quite reaching the sides. So if I go into our content box, you can see that because the max width is set to 1100 pixels, what I like to do in this is go to percentage, and I like to actually say 100%. Now here's the next thing we got to think about. In our content box, you can see it still doesn't reach the edge. Well, that's because if we go into layout and position, we're fine, but in the headers layout and position, we actually have 20 pixels on the left and the right. And now our header lines up beautifully. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the top and the bottom margin as well, or padding rather. So now, almost done with our header, just a couple more changes. We don't want to push our content down. We want to go over our content. That means that the content is going to tuck up underneath our header and we're going to sit on top of it. Now, last couple things I want to do are I want to come into our navigation and I want to turn these links white. I want to check our example here. You can see that some of them are yellow because the current existing page is yellow and the font's a little bit different and thicker. So we're going to build this as close to this as we can possibly get. So if we come here, the first nav item was home. The second one was reviews. And by the way, if you go into menu, go back to custom menu in the breadcrumbs, you can see menu items here. We can edit them either here on the left or we can edit them in the nav itself. We're going to go ahead and just do a mixture of both. So we will do product, pages, and contact. I think product is a little redundant, so we'll just do product, or we'll do menu. I think that's a heck of a lot better sounding. Menu, and then this one will be contact. I'll hit apply. And then our sub items will be like, I don't know, like pizzas and burgers. And then I'm going to add one more. To do that, I'll just click add new. I'll drag it underneath here and we'll call this one dessert. Now I'm doing this because in the next video that we do, we're going to look at how to build this using orderable and we're going to want those different categories. So we're making good progress here. Let's go ahead and change the typography though of these. Let's make these that same name I can't pronounce. And let's go ahead and make them a little bit bigger. And let's make them completely opaque, and that's looking good. And we want to remove the bold on that so it's readable. Nice, that's looking good. Now, one tip I like to give people is I have a plugin called What Font, where you can hover over text and you can actually click on it and it'll tell you, okay, that's size 20 and it's 400 weight. So I can come back here and just make sure that these are size 20 and 400 weight. So it looks good. Now let's make some edits to these. For the active, which is going to be our homepage, we're going to make that the yellow color that we chose. And then we're going to go to hover and we'll change the hover also to that yellow and go to normal. So now when we hover, it turns yellow. And when we're on the home page, which we will be, that'll be yellow as well. And then we need to get rid of some of these borders. I don't want those. Now, one of the last things I want to do is I do want to start fixing this menu. I want the typography here to also be these. I want them to be that font as well. And I'm going to make those a little bigger, maybe size 18. That'll be good. Size 18, I'll just type it in. It's a little easier. And then just like theirs, I kind of want that background to be yellow with black text and then hovered to black and red. So we'll do the background style of these. So we'll do background style and we'll choose a color and we'll make it yellow. Apply. And the typography, we will change that to our, let's add another custom color. We use that 0E, 0E, 0E. Great, let's click the plus button, global it, click apply. And now we need to make sure that when we hover over these, that they turn 0E, 0E, 0E. Oops, not typography, background style. And we'll turn them that color, apply. And what was their font? It turned red. Oh, by default, it does turn red. So we'll change it to our red and click apply. Terrific, that looks pretty close. It's a little bit wider, but other than that, it's looking pretty good. Okay, there's just two more things I need to add. I need to add in a mini cart and some social icons just to wrap this up. So I do need to add a column section, and we'll do that above our custom menu. So we're still in our box, and we will do, what's the closest? 2/3, 2/4 in the middle, 1/4, 1/4. That sounds about right. So we'll take our custom menu, put it in the middle, drag this smaller down to, let's try 20 on this one. It's not an exact science. And we'll drag this one to 20 as well. And now we want to add a cart. So we'll go to our elements, we'll type cart. Because we're using Thrive Theme Builder and we do have WooCommerce installed, we can drag our mini cart in here. And what did theirs look like? One of those little bags. Okay, cool. So we'll change the design of this. And instead of a shopping cart, we're going to choose a bag. I am the worst at icon names. I always get it wrong. Bag. Let's see, where's the bag? Maybe shopping? All right, now we're talking. Okay, this looks good to me. What was theirs? There was see-through-ish. Looks good. You can choose whatever you want. We'll click that as our bag. We'll add it in there. We'll change the color to white white. And that looks good. I think that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and just put that off to the center. Let's decrease the size a little bit. And then to all of our columns, align everything middle. Hey, that's looking pretty good. We'll click done. Oops, I shouldn't have clicked done. We still have to add our social icons. Come in here, we will do social follow icons and change those to be much smaller. We'll center those in their column. And I don't want that style. I really don't love all these styles. You can upload your own images if you want. We'll just go with something simple for now. Click apply. We'll change the color to be white. Click apply. Oh no, is there's white? Yeah, there's a white. And we'll do maybe a little bigger. Probably need to make them so people can actually see them. Maybe 12. And vertical orient. Nope, that looks good. Maybe we'll do an Instagram because we're food. Maybe not a YouTube. What do they have? That looks fine. And we can reorder them. We can do Instagram in the middle. And there we go. And to edit each of these, you can click the pencil icon. And instead of being dynamic and pulling from the global site, you could leave them there. Or you could click the links and have those actually go to a page. But we won't edit those for now, but that's how you would. All right. That looks good enough to me to get us started. One last look. It is actually a little bit thinner. So let's come into our columns and get rid of this excess padding. We aren't going to want that. Let's go into nines instead of zeros. All right, there we go. That looks clean. Now we'll click done. All right, so hopefully that was insightful. That's how we build a navigation. Let's go ahead and start building our actual page now that we have our nav set. And by the way, we did it once, and that's going to be our exact same nav for our entire site. So let's save our work and jump into the actual page. Okay, so this is the homepage in the back end of WordPress. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you're on the gear for the page options. Go to page if you're not. And we want to choose our theme builder template. We don't want default. That's our default page. We want to choose my homepage or whatever we call our homepage template and click update. And then we're going to click launch Thrive Architect. And we're going to say, I just want to be a normal page. This is just going to use the theme options we already set up. Next, we just want to add a background section because we're going to start building that page. And the first thing we're going to build is that beautiful image of that burger, full height of the screen type thing. So for this, we want to stretch it to the edge and make it match our screen height. And just to verify, we are still at 1140 pixels. Perfect. It inherited our theme template perfectly. Let's go to background style, add an image. And it's going to be at the bottom. Oh, it's already looking so good. All right, now we need to start building out this top section here with the text. So I'm going to bounce back here and we have this title here that says, "Are you hungry?" And we're going to use our what font to decide, yep, that's Pacifico, size 40, and it's that yellow that we use. And this is that name I can't pronounce, size 110. All right, so let's jump back in here and we're going to put our text here. Now, there's a couple ways you can do it, but let's look at the way that I like to do it. I like to put it in a content box, and then I like to make sure that the background section has all of the content aligned to the center. Otherwise, it would have been stuck hidden up there behind our navigation. So now I'm going to add some text, and this text is going to be that Pacifico, and we're going to go ahead and hit apply, and we're going to say, "Are you hungry?" We're going to make this text our yellow, and we're going to make it that larger size. What did we decide? 40. And then we're going to add more text below that. And this one, I'm going to copy and paste. There we go. And instead of, perfect, we're going to make this our H1, and we're going to make that 110. 110. Now, if your text overlaps like this, it's because you need to add line height. So we're going to take a look at the pixels here and up that until everything looks good. And that looks good to me. All right, so a couple of things. You'll notice that I did apply color to the text here. However, if I'm going to apply text to the entire section, I can use the outside in principle by making sure I'm in my background section, going to typography, and choosing all the text within the background section to be white unless I apply a styling to it. So any text I add in here now will be white. And because we have a margin below or line spacing below, I'm going to drag that down. All right, now we need a button for go to menu. And by the way, this looks too bold to me still. How bold are we? Yeah, it's probably still a little too bold, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and add a button, and let's drag our button down below, and we'll left align that. That looks good. I actually like the square button. I feel like the square button kind of matches the nav. Oh, okay, there's a square too. Slightly rounded corners, that's fine. Just slightly round the corners of our button. We'll go to borders and corners. Maybe we'll make it like 7 or 8. That looks good enough. Maybe 6 and maybe 5. Okay, we'll leave it like that. And we'll say order now. And we will make this font be the name we can't pronounce. And I want the button to be a little bit bigger, so I'll probably make the typography here closer to 24, and maybe make the button a little bit bigger itself. So button width instead of auto, I'll go back to pixels because I don't like dealing in percentages because it usually messes up mobile. So cool, leave that just like that. That's already looking so good. One thing I did decide I want the line height to be smaller here. And I decided I want that to be a little bit bigger. Let's go with 90. That looks good to me. Wow, that already looks so sharp. And it was pretty easy to build too. I love it. So now the next section that we need to build is this section here that has the different food in a set number of columns. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 columns on a white background. So what I like to do is add a background section. Just click on it, it'll drop below the first one. And by default, it's going to be white. And inside of our background section, we're going to add columns. And we're going to start with 4. We're going to have to add more. Going to go back to our background section, center everything within the background section. And now we're going to start building out each of these, image and text, image and text. So our text is also that font, and it's size 20 with a line height of 20. So let's first drag in an image. Oh, and you know what? Let me teach you a shortcut here. So we can actually add a column, not a column, we can add a content box above here, and we'll go to layout and position, and then we'll make all of those 0 inside of our content box. Now I added that content box because if I put my image in my content box, when I'm done building this component, I can actually just duplicate the content box and it'll bring over all the text and I won't have to build the thing 8 times. I'll just have to change the image and the text rather than customize them. So just a little time saver. So come in here, we'll make this Bebas No Way. And we'll make it 20. That looks good. 2020. Go to our image. Okay, so we've got that one looking like we want. We've got our additional columns. Let's just come in here and duplicate our content box. And we'll just duplicate it 8 times or 7 times. Okay, so now we just have to change the images and the text for each of these, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so now that they are all at least close to being correct, we do have to do one more thing, and this is where I made a mistake. So if we look at our example here, when I hover over each of these, they have a yellow border. Well, I should have done that before I duplicated it and went through the whole process. You're going to make mistakes like that. Even I do it all the time. And these are the worst, right? When you have 8 things you just duplicated. But what we want to do is add that yellow border to our content box. Now, not just the content box itself, but to the hover state of the content box. So let's kind of show you what I would have done. And then instead of duplicating it again, I'm just going to go through and do it to each of these. But we'll go to our content box for, let's say, the first one. I do want to add about 2 pixels of padding inside on each of the top, left, bottom, and right, so that we give that little border a little more room. So then now what I'm going to do is in the state, I'm going to change this to hover, and I'm going to go to borders and corners. I'm going to add 2 pixels of a border, and I'm going to make it that yellow color. Click apply, and I'm going to add about 4 pixels of rounding just because I think it looks nice. So now if we go here and we hover over it, you'll see that we do get that yellow border. And you can choose 1 pixel or 2. I like 2. So now I'm going to apply that to each of these and check back in. Okay, so now when I hover over each of them, I get the yellow border. That looks good. And what I might do in a case like this, if this were my website, I would have these little columns link to, or in this case, I would link the content boxes themselves. To do that, make sure you go to the content box in the breadcrumbs and then go to main options, then click add link to content box, and you can add a link to that. This might link to my page with my burgers, my pizzas, my combos, etc. So the last thing I want to do here is I just want to go to the background section. I do want to stretch it to the full width, and I do want to add in a little bit of minimum height here because I just want to give it a little more room to breathe. I'm thinking 225 just looks nice to me. And when I'm done with that, I'll just click Save Work. All right, we're moving along. The next section I want to build is this neat area right here where we have these multi-columns and sections here over a background. If you can see this in the video, it looks like there's this faded image in the background and it's a static background. So when I scroll, it kind of stays fixed in the back. So let's build that. We'll come in here and we'll add a new background section. We'll just tap on it. It'll drop right below our other. We'll say stretch to full screen width. We will add a background style to it as an image. And the image we're going to add is this one. And we'll click apply. And then on the image itself, actually, we want to do a static background image so that as we scroll, the image can be seen in the background. That looks good to me. And something I like to do as I'm just getting started building a section is I want to add some minimum height here so that we have something to work with. And then we can come back in and remove that should we need to. But first things first, let's start by adding columns. And we know that we're going to have 2 columns. And in our background section, let's just center that. And then inside of our columns, we're going to have, think of these like content boxes. So in the left column, we're going to have a content box with a burger and some text. So let's go ahead and add our content box. And we know we're going to add a background style to this, and it's going to be a multi-part background. So the first step, we're going to add a basic background color to it of our yellow, and then we're going to add an image on top of that, and we're going to choose our burger and insert that. Now, that's not quite big enough, so we can do the same thing we did with our content box, or with our background rather. We will add some minimum height to it, we'll add some text, we'll play around with it, we'll get it looking like we want. So jumping back in here, we do have our headline. And if we come to our what font extension for Chrome, we know it's that same font I can't pronounce. It's size 50. So let's add some text. Paste that in. Great. We'll make it size 50. And if we look at theirs, it's kind of aligned to the right so that it's not on top of the burger. Now, I should have added another content box within a content box. And we're going to drag our text inside of that. And we're going to add the outside in principle real quick by going to our original base content box and doing a typography setting for white. Cool. And now in the inner content box, we're going to give this a minimum width, something like that maybe, and then we're going to align this content box to the right. Now, I'm going to go to the background image here of our column because I want that burger off to the left more, and I'm going to see if I have any options for that. So I'm going to go back into my image, and I'm going to align it. That's looking good, actually. I'm going to go as little over as I can. Let's go default, actually. Ooh, no. Contain is even... might be even better. Let's look at theirs. Yeah, that's going to look good for now. I'm going to see if I can't get it off the screen even more. That might work. We'll leave it there for now and we'll shrink the container. But let's add some more of our text here, just some basic typography. So I'll add in a new text element below that one. We do need that burger over more. It is in our way. And then we need to add the pricing. That's a third option. The pricing is the font size 35. And this will be size 35 in that font. Awesome. And that will be, it'll be a different color. So this is where this font also comes in. I think it's the same red. So we'll make it the red. Kind of hard to read. I'm not sure why they made it the red, but we'll do the same thing. There we go. We're getting there. We're getting there. If we come here, that's looking pretty good. So let's get this burger off to the other side and maybe, yeah, maybe add our button in and then we'll figure out how much space we have. So let's add our button. And you know what? We actually already made that button. So let's just take and duplicate this button and save ourselves some time. One of the nice things about Thrive is you can just duplicate things. Okay, great. We're getting pretty close. We just need that burger kind of off screen. So we are going to come back in here. Oops. We are going to come back in here and go to background style. And this is one of the things that I really want to encourage, right? I use Thrive every single day. I teach it. I have courses on it. I build sites for clients, and I still have to tinker to get things just right. So contain was the wrong option here. Cover might be the better option. So we're going to go with cover and we're going to drag it off the screen as much as we can until we're happy with where our font is at. And that looks good. So this text here, we're just going to, well, first off, make sure we have the right size. 50, 50, great. So ours is 50. But let's reduce the line height on this. So let's reduce the line height to something like that. Already looking better. And then our content box, something like that. And one thing we can do to help ourselves here is to start reducing some of the margins on these. We don't need 20 on the bottom, we need 20 on the top. We can nix the extra spacing we have on some of these buttons. And then you'll see that as we do that, we actually tighten things up significantly, which means we can once again go back into our content box, go to our background style, and move that image over even further. Click apply. All right, that's looking pretty good. So let's reduce some of this here. Let's go into our content box in the base and tell everything to be centered. Wow, we're looking really good. Almost done. And you can see, whew, it's a lot of work sometimes. It's a lot of work sometimes for sure. Move that over. See, that's not what I want to put that back to 20. And then we'll just do, I'll do 0 on that. And just shrink the minimum width again. There we go. All right, we got it. Let's go to our background section. Let's add some border to this, make it nice and round. Let's do 12. That looks pretty sharp. I really like that. So I'm going to save because I just put a lot of work into building that. Now we need to build 2 more of these similar things right here. So because I've already built this one, I am just going to duplicate it, and I'm going to bring this in and just make some edits to it. So we're going to make this one green. So let's go ahead and change this. Let's do our background style. Let's change our yellow by unlinking the global color, pasting in our green, adding our green as a new global color, hitting apply, and then changing our image from the burger, which has a natural yellow background, to the green, so that our chicken pieces come in here and kind of fit within this imagery. And that actually looks pretty good. Too bad they're not the same size. So we're going to go much smaller, cut off the chicken, and paste in this text here. So discovery new menu, we'll just say, discover new menu. Oops. Discover new menu. And then we'll get rid of all but these 2 lines. That looks really nice. And then we will come in here, and the minimum height will be no minimum height because we want to shrink that as much as possible. We want to nix that sizing there, and we want to shrink and get no order button, and we want to make this smaller and yellow. So this font size here is font size 25. So we'll change that from 35 to 25, and we'll change this by getting rid of the button entirely. And now we're looking pretty good, and we're going to change this to that yellow. And then our background image, we actually have to change so that we're not doing a percentage anymore. We're going to go to contain, and we're going to, align it to the bottom left. Gosh, I think ours looks even better than theirs does. Maybe contain's the wrong option. Maybe let's do cover. Oh, actually, that looks, I take it back. Ours doesn't look better than theirs does. That looks nice. Discover new menu. Let's duplicate this right below it, and you can kind of see where our columns don't really line up. We want to put some more space. We want to put some more gutter space. So first things first, let's go to the columns, the main set of columns here, and let's increase our gutter width, right? The gutter width is what's going to give us more space. Let's go to 35, 28. Let's go to 30. Is 30 too much? No, it's about right. So what I want to do now is I want to put a 30 margin beneath this one. You can see now that I may want these to be smaller, or I may want this one to be bigger. I think I'm going to want these to be a little bit smaller. So to accomplish that, let's just make sure we have our minimum height small enough. And then we have that set up there. I'm just shrinking just follow along. I'm shrinking some of the paddings within some of our content boxes. But that's looking pretty good. I may just finalize this one by making this one on the left look bigger so that these two look good. Actually, 30 is probably too big, so let's drop this down to 20 and let's go to our main columns. And again, this is part of that tinkering, and I'm leaving this in the video because I want you to see the process that one goes through when creating something like this and just how much trial and error really is involved, because this is real. So let's keep going. Let's keep working on this one. We'll make this one our pizzas. Wow, that looks nice already. And we'll say buy one, get two. That's quite a deal. Buy one, get two. That looks good. Now, almost done. You can see the columns aren't quite the same height. So here's how I kind of fix that. I'll set a minimum height here of 220. I'll set a minimum height here of 220. And so that's 220 and 220 is 440 plus 20, so 460. So the minimum height on this needs to be 460. Now they're perfectly equal. See, simple math, right? That's kind of the trick. This one is 220, this one's 220. I know I have 20 in the middle. There you go. That looks good. There we go. Let's look at our other option here. We know that actually it's a little more faded in the background. So I'm going to fade this a little bit in the background and give us some more breathing space here. So we're going to increase the minimum height to about let's do 625. 625. And then this background style, I'm going to add an overlay, but not a dark overlay, a light overlay. And I'm going to add a white overlay and increase the opacity until it looks just right. And I think I like that. So I'm going to click save. Look how awesome that looks. We're building this all in Thrive. That's great. So next up we have, compared to the other section, oh my gosh, super easy. Let's just add a white background section with 2 columns. Click our background section in, drop in our columns, 2 columns, background section, center everything within it. Let's drop in our image. There we go. And let's add in our text. So we're going to go with the same thing that we did up here, which is this, are you hungry? But we're just going to shrink everything down. So technically I could come in here and I could just copy all this all over again, but we'll build it from scratch. So let's just look here at our font. So this is 27 and this one is 50. Okay, so another thing, they had this section more narrow. We could put it all in a content box, or we could just go like this and make the pizza bigger, which I think it's a mixture of both. So I'm going to do about 56, and then I'm still going to get a content box. And this is how you really, I use content boxes a lot to control basically the distance between objects or how wide things are. This is a much better way, in my opinion, to do it than to do something like margin and padding. I think you get yourself into a lot of trouble when you do that. So for us, we're going to shrink it down to that size. And now we just need to change some of these colors so that those are red. All right, let's add a little bit more space here in our background section. Let's make it a minimum height of about 600. I think that's fine by me. All right, and that section is done. Let's go on to the next one. Let's add a full section here with some we deliver info. So I'm going to add in another background section. Now that I made that red, I'm going to make it yellow because I think it's easier to see. Try to keep our fonts a little consistent. Make this H2. Quick and healthy dinner. Let's add outside in principle. That's looking good. There is a dark overlay with another button for full menu. So we'll duplicate our button again. We'll say full menu or view our delivery menu. I think it looks even better if we do it that way. We will center this button and give it more room to breathe. And then we're going to add minimum height again to this to like, let's say 500, center everything in it. And then we're going to add our background style on top of our image and then lighten that up slightly. We deliver your masterpiece, quick and healthy dinners. Let's do that. View our delivery menu. Great. Let's go on to this yellow section. Gosh, that's going to be the easiest of all. Let's add another background section. Let's add a background style that's yellow. Let's add some columns, 4 columns, centered within our background section. So we'll go to the background section, center everything within it, stretch it to fit full width. And then we just have some numbers, 230 ingredients. So I'm going to do the content box trick again, and I'm going to do 230 ingredients. Oh, you know what? It's 230 and then ingredients on the next line. Are they the trendy lowercase? No, they're not. Okay, good. 230 ingredients. So we'll make this one Pacifico. And what size did they use? They used 50. And this one is what, like 27? 18. Okay, so this one is 18. This one is 50. And we will add outside in principle. Anything in this entire background section, typography will default to white. Looking good. Let's do layout and position. Push the padlocks. We change all of them at once. Okay, 500 plus clients daily. So now that we've got this done, we're going to go to our content box and duplicate it once. We're getting there. That looks actually pretty good. Let's give this a slight minimum height to it. And then we've got a lot of space on the top though. Let's do some layout and position checks here. Let's nix the space on the top. Looks good. All right, almost there. Next section we'll build is this one right here. And this one's interesting because it has a content box that we're going to use, and we're going to add a decoration to the top. So to save some time, I'm going to take this section that we built, I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to drag it down to the bottom. And I'm going to get rid of these content boxes in here because we're not going to do content boxes. Instead, I'm just going to keep that background style. So save time where you can save it. Our content box will drag in and we will give a background style to it. Make it the red. Click apply. We'll go to decorations and we'll do a decoration on the top. We're going to go with the torn paper 1. And then on the bottom, we're going to do a fancy divider and do torn paper 1 as well. And we're probably going to like decrease the height. We'll make it like, that looks pretty good actually. Top 22, bottom 22, we'll leave it like that. But we are going to add a minimum height for now, just so that we can work in it. And I know already that we're going to shrink it, right? We're going to make it less wide, something like, we'll do 60-40. And then we're going to add our image on the right. And now we're going to add in our text. And then we're going to go to the content box and we're going to add the outside in principle on that. And while we're in our content box, we do want to add more margin here. So let's do about 60 on the top and on the bottom. And I am going to take away some of that. That looks good. All right, we're already looking pretty good there. Yeah, that might have been the wrong top decoration, but I think it looks totally fine. Main dishes, that could probably be bigger, and that font could be a little bigger too. Let's make this 30. And make this one 50. Looks nice. Something like that. This is the difference. So we're going to decrease the line height down to about 1.1. Yeah, looks good. That way we can get rid of some of this. We'll drop this down to like 40 and 40, and that just gives us more room so it looks a little more balanced. All right, I like that. Let's save our work. All right, the last section we're going to build on this page is this section right here. It's just like a product highlight. we're going to add a background section, and then we're going to do 2 columns. We're going to do content boxes within it. And then inside of those content boxes, we're going to have columns with an image on the left and some text on the right. So let's go ahead and start tackling the foundation of this section. So we'll get a background section. We will add our columns, our first set of columns into it. Let's go ahead and stretch that to the whole width. And let's start looking at, in each of these columns, we're going to want a content box and then columns inside of it. So we're just going to build one and then duplicate it. That's the way to go. So we're going to add one content box. Oh, and before I do that, let's change the background style here to be a light gray. And I think that we're going to use F8. That looks good, because then our content box, we're going to give a background style of white, and it's just going to stand off of it just a little bit. And we're going to round those corners again to about 6 or so. 6 feels good. I think we'll do more. I think we'll do about 10. Okay, now inside of those is 2 columns and our text. So we will add in a set of columns. We'll do 2 columns. We'll add text in one of them. Paste in our text. We'll grab our image. And in this one, we'll just do some pizza. And we'll tell our columns to center on each other. And we're going to get rid of all this extra padding and margin that's just inflating the size of our content box, including the margin there. That already looks pretty good. Is that done? No, we need an order now button. So let's do this. Let's add an actual button below our text, but we're going to go much smaller than this. We're going to go in our button. We're going to first off get rid of all this excess padding or margin that we don't need. Let's align the button left, and let's go with a small sized button, and the font can be smaller. It can be like 15. And let's just say order now, but we're going to change this font to that Bebas Nue. There we go. And then because I did that, I'm going to change that. Now, their buttons are invisible because they're choosing to use white. So we're going to make our button color unlinked. We'll make it white. We'll make the typography of the button this black color, apply, and we're going to change the hover state of the button to be that light gray. In fact, we'll add that as a light gray global. And then the hover, that looks good. The hover typography is actually going to stay our gray, but the background is going to be the light gray. There we go. And we'll go normal. So now when we hover over it, at least we can see some kind of input response. That looks pretty good. I'm pleased with that. So let's just take our content box. Let's duplicate it a few times. And now that we've duplicated it at least once, we can come in here and just duplicate our columns. But before we do that, let's get rid of all this excess, again, margin that we don't need on all of these content boxes. Much better. So now we can come in and duplicate our columns. Ooh, I forgot. Let's get rid of all of the excess columns padding that we don't need, because that's 30 additional padding per. And there we go. That's looking good. So we'll just start duplicating that at least one more time. Click in, get our columns, duplicate it. We'll go with 6, and then you just jump in here and you can change any of the font that you want. I'm going to show you how to maybe change 1 or 2. We'll change a pizza. There we go. Okay, so that is how I would make those cards and duplicate them. Almost done. Let's add some text in. Let's see if we can keep some formatting. Center all of that. Let's make this font our Pacifico, tasty and crunchy. And this one is 27. This one is 27 and 50. So we'll make this one 27. Make this one 50. And we'll make that one red. All right, that looks good. That actually looks really good. So let's make sure that we give ourselves, so I think we don't need to do Minimum height here on this one, I would do something like 60 and 60, give ourselves the padding that we need. All right, let's save. If you have stuck with me through this enormously long video, first, thank you. I hope you've learned a lot. I hope that this was helpful. In fact, I'm coming back in here and I'm noticing I want to add some padding on that as well. I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you some insight into how you can build things like this. In fact, as I see things, these padding things bug me. I hope this gives you some tips. And if you were to approach a site like this, where do you start? Is it okay to tinker? Is there a right way and a wrong way to do things? In some cases, yes, there are good principles like the outside-in principle. There are good things you can do, like making sure you avoid using too much padding or margin when a content box would be a better choice. Just little things like that. You see we were able to build what I think is, if I save work and preview this, and this by the way is our Thrive Architect version, a beautiful looking homepage for a restaurant or local ordering site. Now, in the next video that's going to hit the channel, we're going to take this exact build that we just did here and we're going to apply Orderable, which is a local ordering tool that allows you to do product add-ons and lots of really cool like upsells for WooCommerce. And I'm going to show you how maybe you could use it not just for a food ordering website, so hopefully you didn't tune out because you don't do food, but we could apply this to consulting. We could apply this to flower delivery. We could apply this to art. If you're an artist taking commissions, you could apply this to online courses. I'm going to show you how you can use Orderable for a lot of things, and you can learn and you can take some of the things that you learned in this video and apply it to those. So again, if you're interested in getting this template, it is available to Convology Pro members. I will put a link in the description. I hope this was helpful and hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.